There's a couple nice wins for me because I remember on Cloud Nine, like a couple of the bad losses that kind of set us down a bad streak. We're losing to Windstrike and to Voidvoda. Always a nice feeling to kind of get revenge like that. Obviously, Mertz has always pretty consistently been having like a lot of impact, right? Try to keep basing like our CT sides, especially around Mertz and like the things that he's doing, the things that are working for him, what he's comfortable with. Gambit, I really think will still do fine on LAN. I feel like they just have like really insane chemistry as a team.
All right, hello everybody. Welcome back to another sit down with Skriv. We are on with Micks today, of course, the newly founded coach of Nordavind. I want to thank you for giving me some of your time today, my friend.
Yeah, no problem. I always like doing these interviews and kind of stressing out my thoughts, so it's always nice to do.
Yeah. I think it should be good because obviously it's a good time in your career. I guess the announcement is maybe just about 2 weeks now. I'm not entirely sure, how long you were behind the scenes kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty obvious to me, though, because I've been following you guys in the Elisa Invitational, right, that there has been a bit of an upswing, I would say, with this, newer iteration of the lineup and going more, the European mix and stuff like that. In April, May, it was a little bit like up and down, but at the moment, like a 4-5 win streak, at least on HLTV, so looking pretty solid. I guess my first question to you, ultimately, what drew you to this squad? What was it about Nordavind that you thought would be interesting to help out, to coach out?
Yeah. So Nordavind was like one of the teams that really came to me. So they kind of came to me, asked me if I wanted like to interview for the team and stuff. I was pretty interested because I know pretty much all the players. Not personally, but I know who they are. I know their history and stuff. I've been pretty interested in, all of them as players. Tensky actually was like, I'm pretty sure was in the first CSGO Pro match that I ever watched back in like 2014 for like the Cologne qualifiers, which is pretty funny. So yeah, I think there was like a lot of good experience on the team, and also it felt like a team that could easily reach like a higher level, but just wasn't able to mesh with like the right chemistry at this. Before I joined, it kind of seemed like they were going through like a rough streak. They didn't really have an identity. So they're kind of struggling to find that. So it was a team with a lot of experience. I kind of tried with them for a week just to kind of get a feel for them. They can give you a feel for me, and I really liked the team atmosphere was pretty good. I feel like everyone was pretty, on the same page for the most part. The scrims were like pretty good. People seem to have like good attitudes where it's improving and things like that. So I enjoyed my time with the team during the trials. So I was drawn towards joining them more full time.
Yeah, because I think you mentioned there like kind of the chemistry and stuff like that. That one of the storylines I think that we had, because they were in like the regional for the Elisa stuff and whatnot, was kind of just the fact that a lot of potential in that lineup. You know what I mean? Like the names that you see and whatnot, and it was just kind of a question of, I guess, whether that would come to fruition, and then like how long would that take? And it has been on a pretty big upswing. Obviously, you guys, 3-0, I'm pretty sure, right? Going through the first team to go through on the Elisa Invitational, taking down Entropic last week, which is a pretty, big name within the mid-level kind of Counter-Strike at the moment.
Yeah, there's a couple nice wins for me because I remember on Cloud Nine, like a couple of the bad losses that kind of set us down a bad streak. We're losing to Windstrike and to Voidvoda. So like two of my first matches with Nordavind was beating the same two teams. So always a nice feeling to kind of get revenge like that.
Yeah. I mean, it's good stuff, and it was good Counter-Strike. I think we kind of felt that it was definitely possible. New look Nordavind, but taking it in a 2-0 kind of fashion, right, against Entropic, especially because a very difficult team, I think, to predict and to work against. At least from a watching perspective, I don't know if it's the same on the server, but they do look like a hard team to pin down, I suppose.
Yeah, they're a tough team. Honestly, all the teams that we played were pretty tough. Oh, sorry, I need to...
No worries.
Take melatonin earlier in my schedule. Honestly, all of them are like pretty tough teams to kind of prep against, especially because I still didn't have like much time with the team. Like Fiend actually is like the team that I probably hate prepping for the most.
Yeah.
That was like my first match with the team, so that was like a really stressful match to have. But yeah, Entropy's like a really tough team. It's like tough playing against players like Forrester that will just kind of do their own thing at times, just like doing like random peeks, random lurks and stuff like that. it's always hard to like kind of predict that and kind of be ready for it a lot of the time, especially on certain maps.
Yeah, I definitely, right. Even from like a watching perspective, but I can imagine playing and also I guess from like the coaching seat where it's like you've done most of the work, I guess, and then there's a little bit like obviously during the server that you can do, but not as much as maybe you'd want sometimes. They are a scary team for sure. I don't know. We'll see what happens though, because I think I guess I'll touch on them and then like as compared to you guys, because one of the things I think that has shifted, that has changed a little bit, is the schedule, as it were, right? And in April and like previous and whatnot, a lot of tournaments going on, a lot of tournaments that Nordavind were entering, and maybe that was kind of like a part of it. And you do see teams like Fiend, like Skade, like Entropic that kind of try and get involved in everything that they can. I suppose like at the moment, Entropic have got the RMR going on. That's kind of one that you can't really avoid. But, you know, all your sort of like relog tournaments and whatnot. What is your philosophy on that? Because I think this past few weeks, you know, Nordavind have kind of just been focusing on the Elisa stuff, on advanced, and not getting involved in as many tournaments. Is that something that, you know, you've tried to push for, or did they make that decision unanimously?
Yeah, for sure. I've turned down like a couple invites to some of the like snow or the spring cups or whatever.
Yeah.
Just because of like between like advanced, which is like with advanced, like it's only a BO1, right? But you still can't have like a full practice day because like once you get to like the actual match, everyone's tired and it's a BO1 and people have to be, you know, awake and ready for that shit. So like between like the advanced schedule and between the Eliza matches already happening, I mean, just in general, I'd rather just like focus on like one event at a time if possible. I feel like when you're getting to like a point where you're having to play like 2 BO3s a day and multiple times a week, you're really hurting yourself and like the actual performance that you can give. It feels like you're kind of leaving it up a lot more. It's like RNG and just like hitting your shots and stuff, which is not really something I like to do. I'd like to be able to have like a full day of like, you know, proper preparation, make sure we're going over things, make sure that's like the match that we're playing, the match that we're focused on. And so far it's worked out. Obviously, I haven't really been in tune with the schedule so much. Back in NA, which is like you know, where I've been like the past couple of years, you know, you don't really have like these many events. And on C9, we were also kind of like trying to focus on like one event at a time. I think with certain teams, maybe it can be better just to like get more reps in, you know, playing more matches. If that means playing 2 BO3s a day sometimes, that might be fine for certain teams. But at least for like my philosophy and how I like to approach games and how I think it'll be easiest maybe to even like climb up the rankings in terms of like trying to find like, you know, that one good result in event that will kind of just propel you up and just makes it that much easier to kind of stay there. I like to focus on like, you know, being able to focus on like one match a day, preferably, you know, 1 BO3 a day, not having like, you know, 2 BO3s or 1 BO3 and then an ESEA match later, you know, it gets all to kind of be a bit much.
Yeah, I think it's definitely, I don't know, it's one of those things as well where you see some teams, I think Harvu is maybe one that suffered from it recently. They had like a massive upswing, doing really well. I think just about breaking into the top 20 a few weeks ago. And then they sort of start to take a downturn. And I think because you are playing so many games, it's hard to stop the sinking. You know what I mean? Like you just kind of applying the same thing and whatever strategy.
You also get, like, even like at the moment between Advance and Eliza, like in the 3 weeks I've been with the team or so, I've only had like 4 actual practice days.
Right.
You know, the rest of them I had like advanced matches or Eliza matches, or, you know, whatever. And so when you're playing so much and like other teams that maybe aren't playing as much, you know, they're going to be able to have good prep on you and stuff. You're not really going to have as much prep on them. You know, they're able to pretty clearly see the things that you're doing, the things that you're running, and you're not able to like adapt so fast. So you're just like running the same things over and over and over. And if, you know, you're just off one day or, you know, you're just feeling a bit tired or a bit burnt out, it's going to be really hard to like actually grind out a match because you haven't changed anything. The other team knows exactly what you're doing. So it just makes like the entire thing kind of harder to turn around.
For sure. So I guess one of the next areas that I want to ask you about is when, you know, you first come into the team, maybe you've had your trial period, right, of like both sides of the equation feeling each other out. What were some of the things that you really liked about the way Nordavind approached the game? You know, something that you were like, okay, this is cool, let's keep this or work on this and make that a core part of our game?
Coming in, one thing that I felt that I really wanted to attack more was like Mertz. Obviously, Mertz has always pretty consistently been having like a lot of impact, right? I wanted to make sure, like, especially in our CT sides, we kind of like try to build on that, try to keep basing like our CT sides, especially around Mertz and like the things that he's doing, the things that are working for him, what he's comfortable with. But aside from that, really, like I changed like a lot of the roles on both T and CT sides on like pretty much every map. So there were certain things that I felt were still good. Like like I felt like Tensky was pretty much in pretty good spots. He's kind of just a rock of the team. So that's something that I felt was like really strong to be able to work with. In terms of being able to put him super different places and know that he was going to be able to do really well in our CT sides and just our T sides, knowing that like I kind of like Mertz is kind of like an anchor, that's really going to perform pretty consistently, and kind of being able to like kind of base our team off around that a little bit more.
So you mentioned like changing the roles and stuff like that. Is there any chance you could get into that like a little bit deeper? What kind of shifts did you make?
For the most part on T sides, it was like swapping Supra and HS on like pretty much every single map. So making HS more of like the lurker on most maps, and making Supra more part of the pack and like part of the map control on most maps. So you kind of have like the pack of Mertz, Merbit, and Supra working together from now on. And you have HS kind of like working solo, working more spots solo together. Just because like with HS, I like my lurkers to kind of like have the freedom and kind of like have the individual responsibilities to like move around. Whether that's like aggroing and like taking space, or whether that's just completely leaving their spot and rejoining the pack. Things like that, being able to make plays, and that's something I felt HS to be really good at. Where Supra was like a bit more static in his spots. So with Supra, it's more about putting him more with the pack, making him like move around a bit more, letting like Merbit kind of control him a bit more, letting him work off Mertz on T sides, take space by himself. Supra is like really good at like taking contact tools, just like walking up somewhere and just taking a fight. So really wanting to take like more use of like how good Supra is at entrying was like a big thing I wanted to do, and making use of like HS. His lurking skills. He's really smart in terms of the game. He knows what's going on. He's IGL'd a bit in the past. So he's a really smart player. At times, you have to even like try to get him out of like that IGL mindset, because it can be kind of harmful at sometimes actually. But trying to make use of it while also trying to get him out of it a bit in those like lurker spots. And our T sides, it's been really good. Our CT sides have been pretty much more of a work in progress still, in terms of we're just trying to figure out who has chemistry with who on what sites, like trying to figure out who has chemistry with Daniel, playing around him and stuff. So a lot of the CT sides have been a bit of a work in progress.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's fair. Like, definitely have noticed a bit of an upswing on the T side for sure. And I think, you have, like Merbit, Supra, and HS. It feels like those three players have had to reinvent themselves quite a bit, especially HS, like throughout his career has, moved in many different teams. And obviously, I think has gone from a player with great potential to now a more experienced member and whatnot, and still obviously like an effective member of the team and capable of, I guess, living up to his namesake with HS. But yeah, I think it's definitely an interesting one that you come in and make these changes, because it has had a clear kind of effect for me, to be honest. You know what I mean? Not saying this just because you hear it. Is certainly like, I would imagine we get the announcements like a couple of weeks ago, and then you've had a little bit more time than that actually within the team and whatnot once everything's finalized. And that for me is where I've felt this change, this upswing, and this now much stronger looking. Because even in the regionals a little bit, which what would have been like in the middle of May, I think they concluded. It felt some of the matchups were, Nordavind are a team in that section of the tournament of the Elisa we're talking about here, right? That you would still expect to get through for sure, but there were some games that looked a little tougher than maybe they needed to be, or a few moments, and things like that. Was there anything like coming into the team in the same strain, but I guess on the other side of it, that you thought, right, this needs like immediately changing? Obviously, you've talked about the roles, but maybe like the comms or their kind of mindset and approach to like economy and things like that, and whatnot. Was there anything like that you were like, this just needs out the window? We really can't have that.
Yeah. When I joined it, when I was first coming in, it was very individualistic. It still kind of is. Like, still, like, it takes a while to like try to like get out of that. But it felt a lot of times like it's more like 5 players just kind of in their spots doing their thing, rather than 5 people trying to fit into like the certain roles within a team, and trying to fill those roles to like the maximum potential, right? I felt more as like 5 players just trying to fit the roles to themselves. So things weren't really very cohesive, especially like on T sides. On CT sides, it's still a bit of a work in progress as well. It's getting better, but it's still not where I'd want it to be. Um, so yeah, like there just wasn't much of an identity. I felt like when I came into the team, it felt like people were so concerned at times about, okay, I got to make like the right play here, stuff like that. Concerned about, okay, it's playing the right CS, making the right decisions rather than like trying to just like develop an identity of like how we want to play, how we want to attack certain sides, how we want to attack certain maps, and then just going off of that, and not worrying so much about making the right play, but just like discussing how we want to attack things. Maybe in the server time we discuss what would be like the right thing to do here, and just trying to like stick to those types of things. Like trying to develop like our own kind of like style that we want to attack, that we want to do on certain maps, and really trying to stick to it rather than trying to stick to like, okay, we're gonna have the map control guys here and our 2 anchors that are just gonna kind of sit there, and we're gonna play like we're gonna try to make like the right correct decisions in every single round. I try not to worry too much about that. You just discuss what you want to do before the match. During server time when you're building the team, you discuss how you want to attack things. You do that obviously in like trying to attack it in the right way. Whatever it is that you want to do. But you just try to stick to that type of thing. You try to stick to the identity that you want to build. So that's kind of like what a lot of the changes I've done have had in mind. It's something that I'm still trying to figure out. In terms of on certain sides, not all roles are like built the same. So trying to figure out, okay, do I want like someone passive here? Do I want someone that's like trying to bring the game to them here? Do I want someone that's like going to be passive and play more around mercs? That type of thing. Just trying to figure out like what fits best, what chemistry wise on like each map. So it's been still very much a work in progress, trying to like build an identity for the team.
Yeah. What about like coaching from far away? Obviously, this is something that I guess is not just exclusive to Nordavind, or not being closer to the players, I suppose. Is that something that you've found difficult, like during the COVID era, or is it perfectly adaptable kind of thing?
That's definitely been difficult, like especially on C9, because on C9, especially like being the assistant coach and also being there, that like they had one boot camp and I wasn't really sent there for that.
Right.
So like I haven't really seen like any teammates in like a year at this point. So on C9 it was a bit rougher, especially as an assistant coach. You don't really feel as involved. You don't really see anyone, and maybe that's also just because I was living in LA at the time, and I didn't really know anyone there. I wasn't like living with family or anything. So now I'm back home in Florida. It's a bit easier being on East Coast versus West Coast, and also on this team, like there is like still, whether it's probably not going to be like before the player break because it's probably just not possible. But after the player break, me going to Norway, staying there for a bit, even just so that I can work from Europe on a better time zone, more consistently better, and also getting like some boot camps in so that I can actually meet the players for the first time in a year and actually see everyone meets each other. Much easier to build chemistry that way. So it's definitely rough. It's a bit easier on the East Coast. I'm able to adapt to it pretty well because my sleeping's never been that great. And even like before Counter-Strike, I was like working night shifts, so it's something I'm pretty much used to. But yeah, definitely rough, and I definitely prefer to be more in a normal time zone and be in person with everyone.
Yeah, I suppose to be fair, after asking it, it's kind of a question that answers itself a little bit, but it's also the same boat for everyone kind of thing. So yeah, I think we're all looking forward to getting back to it. We'll see what happens. Obviously, the Dota 2 like international announcement is not
Cologne
cool.
seems like he's going ahead, and I am very excited just to watch some LAN Counter-Strike for the first time in over a year.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's actually been crazy thinking about, because like I was with C9 at like Katowice, and thinking about how that was probably like maybe like one of the first like even sporting events in the world to be played without a crowd, because obviously it got canceled right when everything was sitting, and then played without a crowd. So yeah. I often think back to like that time and like kind of realize just how like insane it was to be there, and like with everything going down like that. Really something you look back and I was like, wow, that was actually pretty insane. I'm excited to actually get back to playing on LAN.
Indeed. It'll be good to be back. I guess to touch on that quickly then, like, do you think sort of the current standings with where we're at you know, the Gambit and all that kind of stuff? Do you think it'll stick around when we get back to LAN, or do you feel that maybe there's some teams there that won't be able to perform to the same standard?
I think it'll be pretty similar, especially without a crowd. But I don't know. I feel like it's really hard to say, right? Like, I can make predictions, like maybe even like, you know, I don't want to say Navi will struggle, even though they've been having Blade talk a lot, just because like I always feel like I can count on Simple and especially Electronic, like on LAN, to like really elevate their game. Gambit, I really think will still do fine on LAN. I feel like they just have like really insane chemistry as a team. You know, I feel like they really found like a group of 5 players that like, you know, just kind of like naturally fit together really well. And yeah, obviously most of the other teams are experienced on LAN. Heroic will kind of have to see. They're also like kind of like a more younger team. They're a team that Will Hunden isn't really been able to talk on LAN. Cadian's like kind of struggled on LAN in the past. So, you know, I kind of think they have it in them to really step up on LAN. But a couple of them, like especially on Heroic, are a bit unproven. So I would be keeping my eye more so even on like Heroic than I would Gambit, I would say.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's exciting stuff. It really is. I guess the last question that I want to ask you then is, again, it's a very, very kind of simple thing, but just gives you the floor to talk about what you want to do. What are some of the goals with Nordavind then? Where do you know, targets for the time being, maybe in terms of placings, maybe in terms of lands and whatnot, and, you know, sticking with the lineup and everything?
Yeah. For now, it's just like trying to see what kind of identity forms within the team. I want to see something actually built. You know, I want to see something, I want to see chemistry form. I want to see people actually sticking to a style and playing it. I want to see us like, you know, having like a distinct way of like, you know, this is how we play Counter-Strike and this is how we're going to do it. We're going to throw it in your face, right? I don't want to be like playing like, you know, just 5 people, just like playing together, just chilling. You know, just doing their own thing. Sometimes they kind of play well. So other times it looks like a total shit show. You know, like yesterday we put an advanced match against Penta. It was not very good. So yeah, still have to get there. I never really have too much in terms of like placings or like where I want to get. I mean, obviously like personal goals, you probably want to get like top 30 at least. You know, top 20. Nordavind hasn't really been able to reach that yet, so that would obviously be pretty nice. But you know, just in general, I try to just take it like match by match. Just try to improve every day. I mean, when you can, because I have matches every day at this point.
Right.
So it's just there hasn't been a lot of time to practice and actually like build within those things. But yeah, I just want to see, you know, like actual progress. You know, people getting along, people really building chemistry with each other, things like that. You know, I'm not really never too concerned about like, you know, I want to see like a specific result because obviously results can change on a whim. You know, like such small rounds can influence such rounds so heavily. So I'm not looking too much at that. Just trying to focus on like, is the team actually improving? Like, is there potential here in the future? You know, past like the player break and stuff. How are things going to go? Are things going to keep building, or does it seem like it's just going to stagnate and nothing's really going to happen? You know, just kind of looking for kind of like things like that.
All right. Well, there you go. I think that'll do it. Thank you very much for coming on. Where can the good people find you? You know, the social plug.
Twitter, Josh Micks with a 1. That's pretty much the only place I'm really active. So
All right.
always, I don't really post about my matches. I'm usually just shit posting. So
I mean, that's completely fair.
Yeah, I think my latest tweet was if Bad News Bears wins a series at Cologne or Pro League, I'll put a Bad News Bears tattoo on me somewhere.
Yeah, no, I saw that. I think we should try and get as many people involved in that as possible. To be honest, that would be pretty funny. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see. They might upset here and there, but I don't know about the whole thing.
I hope so. Yeah, the whole thing was a very high goal.
Yeah, for sure. All right, well, thank you once again for coming on, Micks. Really appreciate it, and yeah, I wish you all the luck in the future, of course.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.